Have you ever been in a conversation with someone who, despite clearly lacking knowledge on a subject, argues with unwavering confidence, sometimes even dismissing the opinions of actual experts? Or perhaps, if you're being truly honest with yourself, have you ever felt that surge of certainty about something, only to realize later that you were completely off the mark? If either of those scenarios resonates, then you've likely encountered, or even unknowingly participated in, something called the Dunning-Kruger Effect. This isn't about pointing fingers or assigning blame. It's a deeply human phenomenon, a quirk of our minds that highlights the intricate and sometimes flawed way we perceive ourselves and our abilities. Imagine a novice trying to play a complex musical instrument. In their initial attempts, they might hit a few notes that sound vaguely like the intended melody. This small, perhaps accidental success can lead to an inflated sense of their musical prowess. They might even believe they're far better than they actually are, simply because they lack the skill to recognize their own shortcomings. It's like trying to navigate a vast ocean with only a blurry map. You might think you know where you're going, but the reality could be drastically different. The Dunning-Kruger Effect, named after the social psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger, essentially states that people with low competence in a particular skill or domain tend to overestimate their ability. Conversely, highly competent individuals often underestimate their own relative competence, and may even assume that others find the task as easy as they do. Think about learning a new language. In the very beginning, after mastering a few basic phrases, you might feel like you're making rapid progress and can almost hold a conversation. However, as you delve deeper into grammar, vocabulary nuances, and cultural context, you begin to realize the vastness of what you don't know. This is the initial dip in confidence that often accompanies genuine learning. The truly skilled language learner understands the complexities involved and might even downplay their fluency, knowing how much more there is to learn. The central message I want to explore today is not about mocking those who are overconfident. Instead, it's about fostering a deeper sense of self-awareness in all of us. It's about understanding that our perception of our own competence is not always an accurate reflection of reality. And perhaps more importantly, it's about recognizing the immense potential for growth that comes from acknowledging our limitations. Let me share a small, relatable story. Years ago, when I first started learning about video editing, I was incredibly enthusiastic. I watched a few basic tutorials, learned how to cut clips together, and immediately felt like I could create professional quality videos. I was so confident that I even offered to help a friend with a project that was way beyond my skill level. The result? A chaotic, poorly edited mess that frustrated both of us. Looking back, it's clear I was firmly planted on the peak of Mount Stupid, as some playfully call the initial stage of overconfidence in the Dunning-Kruger Effect. It wasn't until I started investing serious time in learning the fundamentals, experimenting with different techniques, and seeing the work of true professionals that I began to realize just how much I didn't know. That realization, though initially humbling, was the catalyst for genuine improvement. It pushed me to seek out more knowledge, practice diligently, and eventually develop a much more realistic assessment of my abilities. This experience wasn't a failure. It was a crucial step in the learning process. It taught me the importance of intellectual humility, the understanding that there will always be more to learn, and that our current knowledge is always incomplete. It also highlighted the value of seeking feedback from others who are more experienced. Their perspectives can provide a much-needed reality check and help us identify blind spots that we might not be aware of ourselves. One of the key takeaways here is the importance of continuous learning. The world is constantly evolving, and clinging to the belief that we already know enough can be a significant barrier to personal and professional growth. Embrace the mindset of a perpetual student. Be curious, ask questions, and never stop seeking new knowledge and perspectives. This doesn't mean you have to become an expert in everything, but it does mean cultivating a willingness to learn and adapt. Another crucial aspect is the development of self-awareness. Regularly take the time to reflect on your strengths and weaknesses. Be honest with yourself about where you excel and where you need improvement. This can be challenging because our ego often tries to protect us from uncomfortable truths. However, developing this capacity for honest self-assessment is vital for navigating the complexities of life and making informed decisions. Finally, actively seek constructive criticism. It can be tough to hear that we're not as good at something as we think we are. But this feedback is invaluable for growth. Surround yourself with people who are willing to be honest with you, even if it's uncomfortable. View criticism not as a personal attack, but as an opportunity to learn and improve. The Dunning-Kruger Effect isn't a sign of stupidity. It's a natural consequence of the way our brains process information and assess our own capabilities. The problem arises when we remain blissfully unaware of our incompetence, hindering our growth and potentially leading to misguided actions and decisions. By understanding this effect, we can cultivate a more realistic view of ourselves, embrace the journey of continuous learning, and unlock our true potential. The path to mastery begins with the humble recognition of how much we still have to learn. Ultimately, understanding the Dunning-Kruger effect isn't about feeling inadequate or constantly second-guessing ourselves. It's about cultivating a healthy balance between confidence and humility. True confidence comes not from blissful ignorance, but from a deep understanding of our capabilities and limitations. It's the quiet assurance that comes from knowing you've put in the work, sought feedback, and continuously strived to improve. Think of it like climbing a mountain. When you're at the base, the summit might seem deceptively close and easy to reach. This is the peak of the Dunning-Kruger effect, a surge of initial confidence based on limited perspective. However, as you start to ascend, the terrain becomes more challenging. You encounter obstacles you didn't anticipate, and you begin to realize the true distance to the top. This is the valley of despair, the humbling realization of how much you still need to learn. But with perseverance, with continued effort and learning, you gradually make your way up the slope of enlightenment. And when you finally reach the summit, your confidence is no longer based on illusion, but on the genuine accomplishment of overcoming challenges and mastering the climb. The central message we've explored today is this: embrace the journey of learning, even when it's uncomfortable. Seek out honest feedback, even when it's hard to hear. Cultivate intellectual humility, recognizing that there will always be more to discover. These aren't signs of weakness. They are the hallmarks of growth and the pathways to true expertise. So, as you navigate your own learning journeys, remember the Dunning-Kruger effect, not as a judgment, but as a guide. Let it inspire you to be more curious, more reflective, and more committed to continuous improvement. The greatest discoveries often begin with the humble admission of, "I don't know," and in that space of acknowledging our limitations lies the boundless potential for learning, growth, and ultimately, a more realistic and fulfilling sense of accomplishment. Embrace the climb and trust the process. Your journey towards mastery awaits.